This is Camnet World News. My name is Sharon Kalimbola. Thank you so much for joining us. We look at the stories making headlines on our desk tonight. Kasungola Bridge to be completed this month. Non-payment of benefits to retirees worries APC. And Zambia records 70 new COVID-19 positive cases. In international news, Kenya land dispute involving the indigenous Mao people intensify. And finally, in sports news, James Chamanga extends Red Arrow's stay. We take a short break. Join me shortly after that with the details.
Msika is here. We have you all covered with just 150 kwacha. You can advertise every day from 17 hours to 18 hours. For a 30-second ad, get the benefit of selling your products and services on Msika. For more details, call our marketing department on +260 953 995099 +260 962 444 726 or +260 971 177 467. Email us on info@camnettvafrica.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you a filmmaker? Well, you are exactly what we are looking for.
Camnet TV is calling on local filmmakers. For more details,
you can visit our headquarters in Ibex Hill next to Hilltop Hospital.
Contact us on
0962 444 726. Camnet TV.
Not just another channel.
Thank you so much for joining us once again. The details. The $259.3 million United States Kasungola Bridge project between Zambia and Botswana is expected to be completed at the end of this month. A team from Road Development Agency RDA has since toured the project and happy with the workmanship. The details in this report.
The state-of-the-art Kasungola Bridge, whose works started in 2015 and was expected to be completed in 2019, is likely to be handed over to the governments of Zambia and Botswana next month. Works had stalled in 2019 as the Zambian government failed to honor its obligation as a Korean multinational corporation contractor. Daewoo Engineering and Construction went on strike due to non-availability of funds, which was heavily weighing on the Zambian government. However, an emergency meeting between the presidents of Zambia and Botswana led to an amicable resolve which saw works on the bridge continue. A delegation from the Road Development Agency RDA, led by Vice Board Chairperson Nyamfa Mukanga Friday, had conducted a tour of the bridge. Mr. Mukanga has expressed satisfaction with the workmanship.
Speaking as an engineer, I've seen the quality is excellent, and I think this is what we want to see everywhere. And the other contractors also working in various projects should come and emulate these contractors who are working and the engineers, because they have given us what we expected to see. And I believe that they're almost complete. They are doing their finishing touches. They'll be finishing. I'm sure by the end of the month there will be a lot of progress. So what I've seen is very, very good. We're impressed. As the board, we are so happy that RDA has been able to execute such a big project.
Briefing the board members, Kasungola Bridge consultant and team leader Camelo Nkoboko said the project will be finished by the end of this month, September. Engineer Nkoboko said that between now and the completion date, there will be a number of inspections that will allow the authorities to take over the project.
There will be quite a number of inspections between now and the completion date, which will then allow the authorities to take over the project, particularly the bridge as well as the border facilities. These end of the month of September, the bridge should have been taken over. And we also anticipate that beginning of the month of October, the border facilities, the one-stop border in Zambia, the one-stop border in Botswana, will also be taken over and to allow the authorities to be able to use these facilities.
Others in the entourage were Nelly Namwali, Dr. Mtaba Mwali, and Acting RDA Chief Executive Officer Engineer George Mayele. The bridge itself will be completed before the end of this month, with very little works remaining, while what remains is the completion of the one border facility on the Zambian side, which is anticipated to be completed next month. The Kasungola Bridge is a road and rail bridge over the Zambezi River, and negotiations for this bridge started in 2007 under late President Levi Patrick Mwanawasa. The bridge is 923 meters long and will have a longest span of 129 meters and link the town of Kasungola in Zambia with Botswana, and is caved to avoid the nearby borders of Zimbabwe and Namibia. Kalan Muchima reporting.
The Zambian government has been accused of not enforcing the 20% awarding of all contracts to local contractors. A local contractor, Edgar Siakachoma, says local contractors are not benefiting from the 20% as all major contracts continue being awarded to foreign companies. Mr. Siakachoma states that this has led to most local companies folding up. He says the COVID-19 pandemic has compounded the situation even much further, owing to the reduction of construction works. He was speaking to Camnet TV in an interview.
Local contractors have gone out of business. Firstly, because when the sector had a lot of money, they were not given an opportunity. And now that the sector is struggling, we hear government making pronouncements that they will empower local contractors. We think that it's very hypocritical, because there is no money now to talk about in this industry. Government should have been firm and serious about empowering local contractors when the sector was thriving. So it's just political talk in our view. See, it's an industry which had been struggling even before the COVID era. So the little that was there has just been worsened now. So the COVID has made it worse, or it has made a bad situation even worse. That's what I can say.
In other news, Sub-Chief Kundamfumo of the Osho-speaking people of Chembe district in Luapula province has bemoaned high levels of crime in his chiefdom. The chief explains that this is due to the lack of police presence in the area. The traditional leader is, however, worried that despite the local people building a police post using their own materials, 5 years ago, government has up to date failed to send police officers in the area. The chief has cited gender-based violence crimes as one of the leading crimes the chiefdom is grappling with. The traditional leader says dealing with criminal matters is not within his jurisdiction, hence calling on government to do its part, while the traditional leadership also participate in its own way. He was speaking to Camnet TV in an interview.
Chiefs don't deal with crimes. They try always to bring people together, to consolidate, to advise them, to avoid taking their children for early marriages and these other things. Especially nowadays we have this COVID issue. Most of our local people, they are not adhering to the orders which came from the president. Once you try to advise them, you create enmity with the local people. So that's why we are looking for the police to assist us in combating all these crimes. I can't afford as the traditional leader to fight alone this pandemic. You try to advise, you become a rebel. No, he doesn't want us to be having our own programs. It happened to me last week. I was called names that he has just come here to interfere there, and yet I was there to advise them how they should be cooperating with the instructions which came from the president and the Minister of Health. Last time I went to see the commissioner, Mr. Jerry Mansa, the only thing that he told me was, no, we don't have sanitation, we don't have water nearby. But you have seen yourself, we have toilets here.
Meanwhile, Christian Coalition Secretary General Dr. Paul Mbulo has heaped the blame on the lack of police posts in the area on Chembe Member of Parliament Sebastian Kopulande. Dr. Mbulo says it's issues which should preoccupy the mind of an elected leader. He has also accused the current government of letting down the people of Chembe in terms of development. The nearest police post from Kundamfumo is Mansa, which is 45 kilometers.
The Mfumu area is just in between, about 45 kilometers away from Mansa, another 45 kilometers, so to say, away from Chembe, which really needs a police post. And we have been approached by several community members based on the crime, the increase in crime that has been happening in areas like this. This is actually a big area which has got a big secondary school, Kundamfumu Secondary School, a very good health post constructed by the Ministry of Health. So now we're looking at how best people would be rescued, because we are told there are a lot of marital disputes that come, and even witchcraft cases where people always ask each other. They take up these weapons to start targeting at each other. And most of the things, instead of having a police post, they just land in the hands of the sub-chief, who may not even have enough power to handle them. Now, the community, some years back, stood up and have offered a place like this one, this place which could be used as a police post. Having an interview with the sub-chief himself, Sub-Chief Kundamfumu, he has declared a free area, a government-free area, almost 100 by 100 meters, 1 hectare fence, where this has already been constructed by the community.
The African Women Foundation has come to the aid of a 12-year-old boy of Livingstone's Linda compound who has been living with cerebral palsy since his birth. The boy, who has been under the care of her single mom, Monica Lubasi, has had challenging upbringing owing to the lack of aids such as wheelchair and decent shelter. However, the foundation has donated a wheelchair and an assortment of food and non-food items to the boy. Details in this report.
It is a wish for every mother to give birth to a healthy and normal baby just like others. However, certain babies are born with health complications that complicate their upbringing, thereby causing so much pain and grief to their parents, especially mothers who spend most of their time with them. In 2007, Monica Lubasi's mother in Livingstone's Linda compound was blessed with a baby boy who is now 12 years old but was born with cerebral palsy. Even at 12 years, the boy would usually be covered with flies because his mobility is affected, such that he cannot visit the toilet all by himself. To this effect, the African Women Foundation has come to the aid of both the mother and the boy by shifting them to a house with running water and electricity, which will enable the family to take care of the boy hygienically. The foundation has also donated an assortment of food items, detergents, and a mattress worth of 15,000 kwacha, in addition to an all-time terrain wheelchair costing over 40,000 kwacha bought from the United States of America, waiting to be shipped to Zambia. The foundation was led by its president, Joseph Moyo.
As we wait for the all-terrain wheelchair, we have bought the wheelchair, but this one is for now. Yeah, so it will take time because the planes are not moving, they'll ship it. Yeah.
I just want to urge all girls and women out there not to allow men to abuse you and place your value in sex and childbearing. You are better than that. Your value lies in what you can achieve when educated, empowered, and independent to contribute to society.
His mother, Monica Lubasi, a single mother, describes her son's medical condition as heartbreaking.
The one you talked about, the oil, which repels the fleas and bugs or whatever. We'll try to check if the farmer's has.
The African Women Foundation supports over 6,000 vulnerable people across Africa. The Bible in the book of Acts chapter 20 verse 35 says, "It's more blessing to give than to receive." Kalan Muchima reporting.
You're watching Camnet News. Just now we take a break. Join me shortly for more interesting stories.
I have used Oracle Pure Glycerin for 2 years now. It has really worked for me. It has cleared all the black spots on my face. It has restored my skin beauty. It also smoothens the skin. Try Oracle Pure Glycerin for perfect skin. If it's not Oracle Glycerin, then it's not pure glycerin.
Stay home, stay safe. Times have changed. With the advent of the coronavirus, Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company would like to advise its esteemed customers to avoid visiting crowded places. You don't have to move to pay your water bill. You can do it in the convenience of your home. You can pay your water bills through Zanaco Zapit, Stanbic Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, and FNB. You can also use Airtel, MTN, and Zamtel Kwacha mobile money transfer services. For any inquiries to report a fault, please contact our customer service on +260 211 251 571, +260 975 618 618, and toll-free line 5957, Zamtel only. You can also simply email customer service @lwsc.com. This public announcement is brought to you by the Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company. Water is life. Sanitation is health.
Welcome back. Opposition Movement for MultiParty Democracy, MMD President Nevas Mumba, says the party values the positive strides women play in the developmental agenda of the country. Addressing women at the party secretariat Saturday, Dr. Mumba says women ought to be appreciated at all levels. Meanwhile, MMD Deputy National Chairperson for Women, Fosile Sichenga, has called for unity among the female folk in the country. Let's get the details in this report. The role of women in society cannot be overemphasized. Saturday morning, the Movement for MultiParty Democracy MMD women met to exchange notes on what is pertaining on the ground. MMD Deputy National Chairperson for Women, Fosile Sichenga, in Lusaka, expressed sadness at the current status of women in various decision-making positions and generally the struggles that women go through. She has called on women to rise up to the challenges of now for a better Zambia.
They'll be bribed to vote for Bakabolala once again. Unless and until you women seated here, mweba lipano mwewe bonsoba na mai. Nawa mushida kukombo ni mwe muli leaders na muisa. Mumfwe ekoso tufuiro kulaba mobilize wino aini. So mweba ishile bonse, you are a representative. So that you go to the community, you tell the women the story to say, if we're not tukana na tunakaba MMG tuanaka. Tule for a new order. Tule umfana. So, Imwe, you are the lioness. You are going to fight for our president to save Zambia.
And addressing women, MMD Party President Dr. Nevas Momba says women have foresight for many things, hence the need to support them in the sphere of life. He says his party has demonstrated high level of women involvement as evidence from over 60% women representation in various party functionaries.
So we commend this initiative that you have launched today, an initiative that is going to make our women folk take the leading role in the mobilization and in the leading of our political organization. My faith in women's ability to sense what is good for the nation and for the future is what makes me excited to speak to our women today. For some reason, I have a lot of faith in the women folk. Of course, some of the reasons are obvious. One of them is that I'm a son of a woman.
Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News, Lusaka. A female parliamentarian has attributed financial constraints as being one of the major setbacks to women participation in politics in Zambia. Speaking to Camnet TV, Kembe Member of Parliament Princess Kasune has implored women in the country to support each other financially if they are to progress. Princess Kasune says it is her wish to see more women vie for various positions in 2021 general elections, but notes that finances will be their biggest hindrance.
I think it's time that we have more than 30 women in parliament. Out of 164, we have 30 women in parliament. That is not a good number. And I'm also calling upon businesswomen, businessmen to become godmothers or godfathers to support women with their resources. I want in 2021 not only to stand for myself, but to support other women financially, whether it is at the local government level and also at the MP level. We as women need to support each other. If we need to do it ichirimba, to start now, so that come 2021, we have enough financial resources to support each other.
In other news, All People's Congress Party APC leader Nelson Musoni says it's very unfortunate that government is failing to pay former government workers their terminal benefits despite several assurances. Mr. Musoni says what is even more saddening is the fact that both President Edgar Lungu and his Justice Minister Given Lubinda are the ones on the record of having assured the former workers of being paid their dues 5 months ago. The APC leader has questioned government on why it is delaying to honor its promise when thousands of retirees continue to wallow in abject poverty despite having faithfully served the country in various government departments. Ms. Samsoni has since advised government to always stick to its promises as opposed to lying to the expectant masses.
We think that government has not treated the former government retirees fairly. 5 months ago, the president himself, President Lungu, and the Minister of Justice, Mr. Given Lubinda, promised that they were going to pay former government retirees their dues or their money. Up to date, we are able to inform that these former employees have never been paid their terminal benefits. And I think we must be fair to our fellow men and women in this country. When we say this country has lost its sense of justice, precisely this is what we're talking about. We think that the government has an obligation to pay these men and women who have served our country with great distinction. And we think that we should not tempt them to disloyalty by unnecessary procrastination. 21 years is a long time for these men and women. They have suffered long enough.
The Zambia National Education Coalition has expressed disappointment with the decision taken by the Independent Broadcasting Authority (IBA) to stop the broadcasting of education programs countrywide. In an interview with Camnet TV, ZANEC Executive Director George Hamusunga says education is a right and not a preserve of a few people, adding that the move by IBA is retrogressive to the provision of education for all. The IBA has stopped the Education Broadcasting Services EBS under the Ministry of General Education from conducting the education programs countrywide on account that the license issued to them is that of a community broadcasting station and not countrywide. ZANEC has since called on government to grant the Ministry of Education a license that will allow them broadcast countrywide.
We are just coming from what we call the joint annual review of the education sector, which is done by stakeholders involving the ministry, the cooperating partners in education as well as civil society. Now, one of the major challenge, especially that we found, was that the education broadcasting services in the Ministry of Education is unable to air radio programs countrywide because they have been told by IBA or by the Independent Broadcasting Services that they cannot be allowed to air education programs countrywide simply because they were initially registered as a community radio station. But we must state categorically as civil society that we are very disappointed with that development, because we all know the impact of COVID-19 on education and the fact that, the reach of alternative learning modes to our children that are currently at home is largely dependent on the use of radio as well, because radio, unlike TV and e-learning platforms, is able to reach our children in rural areas. And therefore would like to call upon government through the Ministry of Information that they must grant the Ministry of Education the right to be able to use EBS to broadcast radio programs countrywide in order to reach our children as a medium-term solution.
Health Minister Chitalu Chilufya has continued to make calls from various stakeholders to join in the fight against COVID-19. Speaking during the daily update of COVID-19, Dr. Chilufya has called upon the bus and taxi drivers to ensure that they play a role in this fight. The minister says they are usually first responders to the masses by ferrying them to and from, hence the need to ensure that passengers adhere to the state health guidelines. Meanwhile, National Secretary for Bus and Taxi Drivers of Zambia, Sidney Mbewe, says the association is on course in this fight. The details in this report. COVID-19 has continued to spread across the country, with more districts joining on the grid, while others remain at high risk. During the daily updates, Health Minister Chitalu Chilufya says people movement fuels the pandemic, re-emphasizing that people should stay home and only move when necessary to avoid the spread of COVID-19. The minister says government has mounted various response projects that will avert the economic crisis, among other challenges that have come with the pandemic, but in that people must ensure that they play their part in this pandemic.
In the last 24 hours, we had recorded 70 new cases of COVID-19 with no mortalities. We did 1,267 tests, and these tests were done again in all parts of the country. And like I said, the tests that have come out positive are in Solwezi, Ndola, Rumwana, Kitwe, Upika, Lusaka, Zambezi, Kasama, Mpulungu, Chirundu, Katete, and Chinsali. Currently in admission, we have 45 patients. 33 are at Levi Manawasa Hospital, and out of these, 14 are on oxygen. There are 12 patients with 7 on oxygen therapy that are admitted outside Lusaka. And so in terms of discharges, we have discharged 96 patients from the Copper Belt, Mchinga, Lusaka, Eastern and Central in the last 24 hours.
He says people will always be a factor, adding that bus and taxi drivers are key stakeholders in this fight.
High convergence where we operate. We then started making preparations to ensure that we make the first front line to stop or mitigate the spread of COVID-19. One of the measures that we have done in the stations is that we have mobilized human resource, which is critical to fighting the COVID-19, and each and every driver has been given a responsibility to ensure that they play a role in the activities that have been put around in the stations.
But we have a challenge again with our passengers. Normally when we tell them to put on the face mask, they will say, no, I will not jump on the bus in this station. We go to jump on buses on the roads. This has really affected us as bus drivers and conductors, and more especially where cashing is concerned.
National Secretary for Bus and Taxi Drivers of Zambia, Sidney Mbewe, says the association is alive to the fact that it takes concerted efforts to overcome the challenge. Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News. You're watching Camnet News, but we take a break now. Still to come is international and sports news. Stay with us.
To create a positive difference in people's lives, one must first understand the way people live. At Savannah, we're here for our community, our partners, and our future, as a nation and as a continent.
Back in 1997, we decided we were going to create this family journey into a bigger opportunity, and created a business called Savannah, which meant save nations to develop Africa.
It's always important to give back to the people. The government cannot do everything, but as business entities, we'll be able to reach a lot of people.
From our humble beginnings in the telecoms and mining sectors to our work in energy and development projects, we know how important it is to be true to our roots.
Our services have to be diversified so that we don't depend on one income stream. Back in the village, I was growing up hunting and doing everything that a village boy would like to do. When you're hunting, you don't depend on one trap, for example. You have to have many traps. So those survival skills brought into the business created opportunities that we learned from a young age that you can't survive with just one product. Savannah Group involves Savannah Management, which is a consulting, Savannah Express, which is a corporate branding company, Savannah Electric, which is a manufacturer of energy-saving bulbs, Savannah General Insurance, which is a general insurance company, Savannah Fresh Produce, Cyber Africa, which is a center for just dealing with cyber security.
Now, Savannah is combining local knowledge with international expertise. It's time to be a part of Zambia's rising success and Africa's exciting future.
We are a gateway into Africa, and now we are praying with global companies who are coming to Zambia for opportunities and to look for companies that are homegrown, and we are proud to be one of those.
Welcome back. We now look at international news. Niger's National Human Rights Commission has accused the army of executing dozens of civilians during counter-insurgency operations. It is said it had discovered more than 70 bodies in the 6 mass graves in the northwest of the country, an area affected by jihadist violence. The killings allegedly happened earlier this year. One of the investigators said the civilians had been killed with bladed weapons and small arms. International rights groups have accused accused the armies in Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso of carrying out dozens of extrajudicial executions during campaigns against jihadists and other armed groups in the Sahel region. And in other news, a community of forest dwellers in Kenya is struggling to survive after being evicted from its ancestral land. The Ogiek people say they were given the legal rights to live in the forest in court, but the government says they are destroying parts of the fragile ecosystem. Al Jazeera has more on this story.
Jane Korir is among hundreds of Kenyans evicted from the Mau forest in July. It's in the Rift Valley, Kenya's most important water catchment area. Government officials say in the last 2 decades, the forest has lost many of its trees because of logging, charcoal burning, illegal settlements, and increased agriculture. Korir tells us she's a forest dweller from the Ogiek community, and the Mau is her home.
The only solution is to permanently settle us in our ancestral land. All governments found us in the forest but have never found a proper alternative place for us. We have suffered for many years.
Some of the displaced have sought shelter in schools. This grandmother says it's the 3rd time she's been evicted in as many years. The controversy over land ownership around the Mau forest has been going on for decades. People here live on the edge, always ready to flee from government forces or other hostile communities. Everyone we talk to said they're tired and want a permanent solution. In just over 40 years, hundreds of thousands of people from different communities moved into the forest and surrounding areas. Some are said to have illegally obtained title deeds for land where the Ogiek was supposed to be settled. Others were brought here from other parts of the country to increase votes for certain politicians during elections. The battle over ownership of the land has often resulted to ethnic clashes. Ogiek rights campaigner Daniel Kobe shows us remains of fighting following the recent evictions. He says the community has won court cases, including in the African Court on Human Rights, where judges ruled in favor of their right to live in the forest or be settled elsewhere.
What we want is an Ogiek community land, well protected, because we have seen that the title deeds are the cause of the problem.
Government officials say some of the 52,000 Ogiek have been resettled, but a few sold off their land. Influential people also grabbed much of it, and the process has since been politicized.
Any area covered by indigenous forests, nobody will touch. They will not touch it. Because you touch that, you have destroyed the country completely.
This is an emotive issue that has often led to death and despair. Here, government surveyors meet hostile villagers as they inspect a 1997 forest boundary, which has been adjusted several times, leaving large swathes of forest land unprotected. The people say they're tired of boundary changes and they're tired of fighting. Catherine Soy, Al Jazeera, Mau Forest, Kenya.
That's it for international news, but now we look at sports news. In sports news, Zamford reports that 2012 AFCON winner James Chamanga has extended his stay at Nkoloma Stadium for another year. The club has confirmed. Chamanga joined Arrows in 2019 March after signing a 3-month contract before extending for a year. Cameroonian defender Elvis Bissong has also extended his contract by 2 years. The club also confirmed that the departure of international midfielder Bruce Msakanya, who has moved to Zesco United FC for a 1-year-long loan deal following successful negotiations with the Ndola-based outfit. New arrivals are expected at Nkoloma Stadium and will be announced as soon as all transfer bids are concluded. And still in sports news, Chipolopolo first-choice goalkeeper Kennedy Mwene, South Africa's Premier League side Sundowns, has won the PSL League. This was after Sundowns trashed Black Leopards 3-0 courtesy of Lebohang Mowbray hat-trick. Mwene has kept 3 clean sheets, leading a team to winning the league. Lazarus Kambole's Kaizer Chiefs missed a chance to win the league after they were held to a 1-1 draw by Baroka FC. That news item brings us to the end of our news, but before we go, the headlines once again. Kasungola Bridge to be completed this month. And non-payment of benefits to retirees worries APC. Zambia records 70 new COVID-19 positive cases. In international news, Kenya land dispute involving the indigenous Mau people intensify. In sports news, James Chamanga extends Red Arrow's stay. We now look at the Camnet verse for the day, and it's coming from the book of Lamentations 3:22-23, and it reads, "The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases, his mercies never come to an end, they are new every morning, great is your faithfulness." That's all we could accommodate for you on the news desk tonight. Thank you so much for staying with us. You remember to stay within the health guidelines that have been prescribed by the Ministry of Health in order for us to prevent the spread of COVID-19. My name is Sharon Kalimbula once again. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.